I think we made a wrong turn back there somewhere. I know, I know. I have some explaining to do. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. The moral and social fabric of our society has deteriorated. With the vast amount of knowledge and information in our world, specifically by way of technology, which underpins many developments and advancements that Western civilization has been privy to, why are there so many problems rather than solutions? And I've noticed the impact of technology has increased at the same rate the moral decay and erosion of ethical values and principles have. And to name a few, mass shootings, murders, social injustice, racial hatred, sexual immorality. So could this be proof that the evolving connection between technology and humanity has not only changed how we communicate, work, learn, and live, but has changed our moral values and principles for the worse instead of the better? Now, granted, technology and access to information, it has made life more convenient and comfortable, but is this always a good thing? And I'm going to venture to say no, and here's why. Let me first share biblical history through the story of the Tower of Babel. When you get a chance, it's in Genesis chapter 11, 1 through 9. And with the Tower of Babel, there was a people, okay? They were one human race with one language. They had the same language, and they decided to build a mighty city, okay? And they wanted to build a tower in this city that would reach, the tops of the tower would reach the heavens. And God saw this and was not pleased with it because he saw their pride in what they were building. And so they were doing this to make a name for themselves. They wanted to be famous for accomplishing this great feat. So what God did is he confused their language. He confused their language so they couldn't understand each other. And then, on top of that, he scattered them across the earth. And so that's where we get the different languages from. And also the word Babel, B-A-B-B-E-L, originates from Babel, B-A-B-E-L, Tower of Babel, which means unintelligible, sounds that are unintelligible or unclear, confusion. So because of their pride, God brought what they were doing to an end. I've learned this lesson in my own personal life, that when things get chaotic and hazy, to go back to the basics. And what I mean by go back to the basics is to go back to God. Go back to the beginning. Everything points back to God. He is the beginning. He is the end. What I mean is, where I started before he gave me a vision to build, I just wanted to know God. I just wanted to know who he is, his character. I wanted to know who I was in him. Why did he create me? What was my purpose? And in the process, intimacy, I was building intimacy with him. And as I grew in intimacy with him, he began to entrust me with a vision to build my new life in him with the training I received in my relationship with him. And this includes a business, this YouTube channel, and other, projects and tasks. So times were simpler before the pursuit of these desires that he gave me. And sometimes along the way, I would forget to include him in the building and start to do things my way, or become fixated on the desired things that I forget about the one who gave me those desires in the first place. And when this happens, he ceases all operations. And then I'm left paralyzed because nothing is working out for me where I can move forward until I take a step back and realign my focus on him. So when we have to go back to the basics, it's a humbling experience. And when we're humbled, it helps us to rekindle moral values like empathy, compassion, patience, trust, love, long-suffering, because it takes us back to God, who encompasses all of these things. In our culture, if the younger generation ever calls you basic, that is not a compliment. It implies that you are unexceptional, uninteresting, unexciting, and ordinary. I quote, "The best girls are going to always be the difficult ones. Deal with it or get yourself a basic, you fill in the blank," unquote. So this is evidence that godly wisdom is going to always oppose or contradict worldly wisdom. So what the world sees as basic, God sees basic as necessary at times to bring us back to him. 1 Corinthians 2:5 says that our faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. So let's talk about godly wisdom and human wisdom and what are the differences. So human wisdom or man's wisdom is of physical origin, okay? God's wisdom is of spiritual origin. He's spirit. And he is not limited to the physical laws and dimensions that govern our world. Now, man's knowledge comes through the realm of his experiences with the knowledge of others, which are all limited. Godly wisdom contradicts worldly wisdom. What the world sees as wise, God sees as foolish. His ways are not like our ways, and his thoughts are higher than ours. Godly wisdom sees the big picture, and only God has that view. He is before the beginning, and he has no end. So when we seek wisdom from God, he shares his view with us, and when we receive it, we operate in godly wisdom. Wisdom that you can't get from scholars, books, or the deepest philosophical thinkers. He showed me that nature gets it right when we think of going back to the basics, because it's a lot like how nature operates. Nature actually teaches us the basics of life. Job 12:7-10. Now ask the animals and let them teach you, and ask the birds of the air and let them tell you. Or speak to the earth and it will teach you, and let the fish of the sea declare to you. Who among all these does not recognize that the hand of the Lord has done this? In whose hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind? So we all know what nature consists of. It's the world's animals, plants, and other non-human things, and the events and processes that are not caused by humans. Human wisdom has a record of using science by taking natural principles or laws that enable life and turning them into instruments of death and destruction. To name a few, our food that once was all natural has all of these additives, all of these things in it that's actually causing more harm than good. And it's a feat just trying to find pure natural food. Medicine, our medicine has so many other things added to it. When once medicine came from plants and herbs of the earth, but now that they've added things to it to speed up processes, it can cause more harm than good. And weapons. One day I was intently observing the squirrels on the property I live. And at one point in the day, they are like diligently working for food. Then at some point, they're chasing one another from tree to tree, yard to yard. And side note, I just love to see their little butts running around. I don't know why I'm fascinated with squirrels' butts, but I am, because I think it's just so adorable. But anyway, in the midst of their work and play, I noticed how they were surrounded by this lush vegetation of supplying resources. And they're doing this from sun up to sundown through various seasons and years. And upon further observation, I began to notice a balance. And through research, I found that that balance in nature consists of three components. And that is systems, order, and connectivity. Now, systems are components that interact to produce the environment that we're familiar with. Order is the way things work, and there are laws that ensure that it provides and sustains all. Connectivity is the interconnection of things to work synergistically. So nature exists by way of these three components, which lends way to generating life and harmony. Our body operates in the same way. When the systems, we have different systems that make up the body. And when the systems that are interconnected to synergistically function in sustaining the health of the body, if it's dominated by something, the system becomes corrupt, therefore causing a disconnect between the systems, dis-ease, and disorder, and possibly death. Nature exists just being what they were created to be through these three components: systems, order, connectivity. So if we were to look at our society in light of these three components, would you say our systems are interconnected and synergistically working to sustain all? So if nature gets it right by existing through these three components, what is our problem? I believe our problem is we do not seek to sustain, but we seek to dominate. Mankind takes the laws of nature he discovers through his own wisdom and uses them against others because of his inherently evil heart. With an inherently evil heart, human society struggles against each other for superiority. In contrast, nature is perfectly orchestrated in harmony while generating life. When there is harmony, everyone sustains everyone else. Therefore, there is no lack. So why do we have lack when there is an endless supply of resources? The reason why we're having trouble with this is because God gave us free will through the ability to reason. Having freedom and free will meant God's children might choose to rebel. And this is where we go wrong. Trying to solve the world's problems without revelation from God, wisdom from God, and trying to do it by our own human wisdom and understanding, which is pride, It is no match for the evil forces that are concealed in our social structures. Now, don't get me wrong, having a mind to reason and think is a gift. So this is not a bad thing. God gave us dominion in the very beginning when he made Adam and Eve. He gave them dominion over the earth, everything in the earth, and told them to subdue it. But he didn't tell us to dominate each other. Our issue is man wants to dominate man. We are to learn how to live and what to live for from God. His principles are in his word. The problem comes when we question his existence with our mind through worthless theories, or we don't honor his ways. And this is where we veer off his path. The irony is the very gift God gave to mankind that isn't attributed to any other creature is the very gift we use to reject him. But apart from God, our understanding is limited and flawed, and it's the reason why there are more problems than there are solutions. So when we reject him, instead of order, we have disorder. Instead of connectivity, there is disconnect with corrupt systems, because we've built a society based upon human flawed wisdom, which is demonic in orientation, self-centered, seeking to glorify oneself like the builders of the Tower of Babel. We take pride in what we know and what we can do with what we know, that we idolize it and try to build our own kingdom instead of building for God's kingdom. Everything points back to God because he created everything. Nature reveals truth about God because the work of his hands and his character is influenced by what he made. Everything we see in nature has been designed in intricate detail and brought to life by God. Nature reflects his creativity and splendor, and since we are made in his image, we should be a reflection of his nature. But has this been the case? Would you say an increasingly immoral society is anywhere close to reflecting God's glory, who is of moral excellence in character? Our troubles and problems are a result of following worldly wisdom, point blank period. I don't care how impressed you are with the creators of innovation and technology that have contributed to the advancements you see in our society. But guess what? God is not pleased. Because what we see as wise, God sees as foolish, because we are doing it without him. It is done in pride, apart from him, with the wrong intention, self-gain, dominance, and control. The all-seeing, all-knowing God sees the advancements we marvel at as foolish. The problems may be complex, but the solution is simple. Because we are inherently evil since the fall of creation, we need a heart change. When we become one with God, his character is reflected in our ways, in what we do. We use the mind he gave us to partner with him, to create and build for his glory. The more advanced we are doesn't necessarily mean the better off we are. Be who you were created to be, which is to be like God. Then you can do what you were created to do. Then what you have built will yield harmony. It will produce life because you're doing it for the glory of God and not for your own self-gain. So if you haven't done so already, you can start to do this with a repentant heart, which leads me to an invitation to salvation. There is a prayer down in the description box below. Just pray that prayer. It will justify you because you just simply believed. You are asking God to come into your heart, to change your heart. Just stay the course, and I am praying for you. All right, guys, that is the end of this video. There were some scriptures that I have, reference scriptures. I will put that down in the description box too, because there are some other scriptures that I referenced, but I just didn't mention during this video. All right, till next time, God bless.